Hello everybody and welcome to Real Madrid Hub. I am your host Eric Rivera and this is your spot for all things Real Madrid news. Well, a really good article came out today by Jose Félix Diaz of Diario MARCA, and it's all about how Karim Benzema is really thinking about whether or not he wants to renew his contract when it comes to an end in 2022. As far as we know, and as far as we're reading in this article, the idea is that Real Madrid does want to renew his contract on a yearly basis, as they usually do with players that are over 30, and that the idea is to keep him at the club. However, Karim Benzema, in typical Karim fashion, and I'll get into that in a minute, said that before he decides to renew the contract, he really wants to see where he is at physically, where he is at when it comes to scoring goals, and really if he's going to be an asset for the club before he decides whether or not he is going to renew. He said that part of the reason that he is questioning it is also because he wants to make sure that really, in a lot of ways, he wants to make sure that he is not going to be a burden for the club and essentially going to be left without playing time if and when he realizes that, he can no longer be he's not in his best physical form. He's no longer scoring the same goals. So he kind of wants to see where his body is going to be at, when his contract is up in 2022, or just a few months before when his contract is up. So before he decides whether or not he wants to renew. Now, this is something that I really think is awesome. I'm somebody who, I appreciate a lot of times loyalty from players towards their club and a lot of things like, really playing, sweating, as we say, sudar la camiseta, really, being a Madridista, somebody who's loyal to the death to their team. Essentially, something that Jose Félix Diaz talks about in the article is how Florentino Perez flew all the way to Lyon, which we know that story. He flew all the way to Lyon and went to Karim Benzema's house because he wanted to sign Karim Benzema. And ever since then, Karim Benzema has been a staple for Real Madrid. I would go as so far to say that he is, just like Sergio Ramos and all these other guys are icons, Karim Benzema has been an icon for Real Madrid. He's been synonymous with Real Madrid the same way that Marcelo is. And it's just that the era that we know is coming to an end. But one of the things I dislike is kind of a lot of the hatred that we hear from people of Karim Benzema and how he's kind of been, hot and cold and things like that. You have to realize that Karim Benzema has scored 265 goals with the club, 141 assists. He has been a complete model, according to this article, and something a lot of people obviously know. He's been a model employee for Real Madrid, never holds them hostage, saying that he wants to get more money and that he wants his contract to include more money or clauses or anything like that in order for him to renew. He has renewed consistently with the team and is always quiet about it and just continues on without really being, without really being difficult or, like I said, trying to hold the club hostage for more money. He's never been that type of player. He's had his issues off the pitch. We all know about the story with Valbuena and everything, and I'm not going to go too much more into that, of course. But for me, Karim Benzema has always been an incredibly unique player, a loyal player, and he is essentially, this season, he is our only goal scorer. The only way that we are going to get out and get something really out of this season is really if Karim Benzema is in form. The one thing that a lot of people kind of criticize him for is, that lately he hasn't been scoring as much, or he's not scoring buckets of goals. Well, that is a problem. That's the problem as a whole with Real Madrid. And, you really can't fault a player who is a number 9, but not a traditional number 9, who has been always so selfish in the way he plays. He essentially knew that Cristiano Ronaldo was a better goal scorer than him. He has admitted as such in interviews. and said, that he essentially made his career during those Cristiano Ronaldo years, made his career out of doing the best to assist Cristiano Ronaldo and make sure that, because he saw that Cristiano Ronaldo was, a better goal scorer, help Cristiano Ronaldo and build up those numbers. So both of them really helped each other out, as well as, being part of La BBC, which when you had a prime Bale, you had a prime Cristiano, and Benzema is, as always, being class in front of goal and class not only, if he's trying to score, but as well as assisting. The creation between those three is something that was incredible. Karim Benzema right now is by himself. I have said it all, over and over, and you can hear it on my podcast. Is essentially we are at a lack, and everybody knows this. We're at our wingers, for me at least, do not bring anything to the table as of late. Asensio was not in good form. He's starting to show some of that again. Vinicius has dropped off quite a bit. Hazard has been in and out of injury. Lucas Vázquez, was never our, starting right winger, and has really only had maybe his best season this season, and now he's injured. And I think the only young gun that's shown, that he's kind of on his way to being, that I would think he has a lot more potential is Rodrigo. And, to extend it out, I guess, a little bit more after the Getafe game, I think Marvin Park looks pretty solid as well. But Benzema is essentially alone as a striker. So this is kind of interesting to see that, and that was kind of like for all the haters that want to talk about Karim Benzema, but I think he's just such a unique player. And this whole idea of him wanting to see where he is at physically before he signs a contract to renew screams to me about being not only loyal to the club and being a true Madridista, but that he is willing. Because if he feels that he will be a burden to the team, and if he feels that a better goal scorer is going to come, or that the team is going to focus on more youth players, and essentially we know that Zidane is not always going to be there and possibly won't be there next season, so he's not going to get that favoritism. He's probably more or less likely looking to the fact that, maybe it's time for me to step aside, and I will be the one who doesn't, even if Real Madrid offers me the contract, I'll be the one to say, no, I think it's time for me to go. Because essentially we also have heard that he is interested in ending his career back at his, in his hometown, playing for Olympique de Lyon. And so, he's also looking towards that, to possibly ending his career there, because he's feeling like if he doesn't have the level to play for Madrid, he'd rather go to a place where he can get more minutes and continue playing while Madrid continues on growing in a new direction. And that to me just screams absolute loyalty and Madridismo. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I definitely think, aside from the fact that we have Karim Benzema for another, probably, another season or so, I think really, the idea is that we want to bring in, my earlier piece of news was essentially that Haaland was available, and, one of the players that we want to bring in is Haaland. It would be great to have Haaland at the end of the season if we have both Karim Benzema and Haaland, I would say an outgoing Karim Benzema, who will most likely sort of usher in a new era of having somebody like Haaland at the helm of our attack, would be an interesting thing. There's always this thing about Real Madrid not treating its legends properly. But I think at the same time, the legends themselves have to be willing, to sometimes it also takes two. And sometimes, for all intents and purposes, if you have a legendary status, there comes a time where you have to realize that you no longer have the same physicality, the same technique, the same youthfulness that you once offered the club. And especially, and to me, this is something that I think is great, is that, for Karim Benzema to be that introspective and real and say, if I don't feel like I'm going to be able to give any more to the club, then I'd rather step aside and continue on with my career at Lyon and, leave Real Madrid. I think that's a pretty interesting way of taking it. I've always liked Karim Benzema. I've always think aside from, the issues he's had off the pitch, besides that one issue, he's always been a class act, and it seems like he's always been a 100% full-on Madridista, and always doing what is best for the club and going quietly about it. So I like that about him, and I really liked this article by Jose Félix Diaz, and we'll see what happens with Karim, and I wish him the best for this season, and hopefully we're seeing this sort of, these last two games have been a turnaround. Let's see, and hopefully it continues and we end up on a positive note in the 2021 end of the season. So that'll be it. That'll be my news for now. Thank you very much, as always, for listening. Remember to subscribe to Real Madrid Hub, as well as my podcast, Y Nada Más Podcast. Thank you again for listening, and we'll talk again soon.